Who is not familiar with Netflix? Maybe the classic Money Heist or the latest sensation Squid Game. It feels so good and convenient to have your favorite entertainment library at your fingertips. But it wasn't always like that. Since 1959, when the notion of broadcasting channels, or the TV channels as we call them, was first introduced, broadcasters determined what viewers could watch and when they could watch it. Consumers faced limited choices, had to arrange their schedule to watch the show when it was broadcasted, wait a week for the next episode, and sit through frequent commercial breaks. But today, the OTT revolution has shifted the power to the viewers. They assembled a large library of content and made these shows, movies, and documentaries available over internet so that audience could watch what they wanted, when they wanted, and as long as they wanted without any commercial interruptions. The company that started this OTT revolution is Netflix. So in today's episode, let's travel back in time and understand the strategies and the events which helped the rise of Netflix. Netflix was founded in 1997 by Mark Randolph, a tech marketing executive, and Reed Hastings, a computer programmer. The pair wanted to create Amazon of something, and after researching products suitable for e-commerce, they settled on DVDs. Randolph and Hastings initially planned Netflix as an online DVD retailer, but added rental services before launch as they realized Netflix could not beat large retailers like Walmart and Amazon. The concept of streaming videos online was nowhere in their mind at the time. They were just planning to sell DVDs. Netflix launched its services in May 1998 with 30 employees and a library of 925 movies to rent. To improve its emerging rental business, Netflix piloted a subscription plan in 1999. For $22 a month, subscribers could rent unlimited number of DVDs, one at a time, for as long as they wished. The subscription service was an immediate hit. Netflix's competitor was Blockbuster, and it was the market leader in DVD rental business with 20 million active subscribers. However, they did not have internet presence. All their business happened offline. By 2000, Netflix had some 300,000 subscribers, but it was not yet profitable. In a move to improve their business, Randolph and Hastings flew to Dallas to meet Blockbuster senior leaders and propose a deal, where they offered to sell 49% stake in Netflix for $50 million. They even proposed to act as online distributors for Blockbuster DVDs. Blockbuster CEO immediately rejected that deal. Good for Netflix, otherwise, the Netflix as we see today wouldn't have existed. The rivalry between Netflix and Blockbuster is an altogether different story, and it deserves a video of its own. Against all the odds, Netflix continued its business. When Netflix went public in 2002, the IPO prospectus described Netflix as the largest online entertainment subscription service in United States, providing more than 600,000 subscribers access to a comprehensive library of more than 11,500 movies, television, and other filmed entertainment titles. Looking at Netflix's success online, Blockbuster even launched its own online subscription service, but could not overtake Netflix, which grew to over 4 million subscribers. By the end of 2006, Netflix was valued at $1.5 billion, more than twice the Blockbuster's market capitalization. By 2007, internet broadband had reached over 50% of American households, but it was still expensive and slow. It used to take more than 2 hours to download a high-resolution movie. Although the market for digital delivery of video content was small, it attracted large retailers including Amazon and Walmart. Even Disney launched a short-lived movie rental service, which required consumers to buy a $200 set-top box and pay $4 to rent a movie for 24 hours. It was similar to movie on demand, which some Indian DTH providers also offer. Well, that was a disaster. But Reed Hastings, in contrast, tried something different. In 2007, Netflix developed a virtual player which can play content online in real time. He introduced to the audience something they have never heard before: streaming. That was the turning point. That was the moment when the OTT revolution has started. But the road to success was not easy. You see, Netflix had the online streaming platform ready. They even developed the mobile application. But experts were not ready to believe that there can be a day when people will watch videos online on mobile devices, on small screens. Well, today it sounds foolish, but imagine the year 2007 when all this is new. Another issue was with content. The only question subscribers of Netflix were asking was what to watch, and Netflix didn't have a lot of content. They were not producing Netflix originals as they do today. Only way of getting great content on Netflix was to license it, where Netflix will pay a fee to original creator for streaming their content on Netflix. So the task of Netflix was to get as many licensing agreements as possible. For that, they reached out to one of the largest production house, Warner Brothers. They also own HBO, and HBO is known for quality content. If they can convince Warner Brothers to license their content, it will be a big win for Netflix. But they were immediately rejected. And the same thing continued with other production houses, and Netflix's future was a question mark. But then, something unexpected happened.
The stock market is now down 21%.
Because we're now down 43%.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
It was the worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
The 2008 financial crisis. Media companies faced huge losses. They needed money and were ready to license the content to Netflix. Suddenly, Netflix had a huge library of Disney and Sony blockbusters like Spider-Man 3, Pirates of the Caribbean, and more. Netflix was offering same Hollywood blockbusters which people watch on their cable TV without any breaks, and it actually costed less. 2008 crisis was a disaster for many companies, but for Netflix, it was a positive turning point. Along with content, Netflix ensured that their application come preloaded with various mobile devices like Xbox, Sony PlayStation, Roku set-top box, and even DVD players were coming preloaded with Netflix, and subscriptions reached record levels. Then an unexpected email changed everything. One day in 2009, Reed Hastings gets a mail from Steve Jobs, and he wanted to have Netflix application in their new Apple iPad preloaded. Apple was the leader in US market, and when their devices come preloaded with Netflix, it gave the required reach for Netflix. Nothing will ever be the same. We all heard the saying that content is the king, but not always. Sometimes it's the algorithm that makes all the difference. Netflix's biggest asset is its algorithm. You see, it's not just the viewer watching Netflix, it's also the Netflix algorithm watching the watcher. Netflix's sophisticated algorithm tracks every moment of the viewer on the platform, like what kind of content they are searching for, how long they are watching particular show, what part of the show they skip or rewatch, which actor they like. Based on this data, Netflix creates a detailed behavior profile of each viewer and groups them with viewers of similar taste. Based on this data, Netflix is in better position to recommend the content, and you are most likely to like it. Not just that, this data is used to understand what kind of content is popular on the platform, and based on that, they can plan on what kind of content to release in future. So every month, along with your subscription fee, you are giving away your data about personal preferences as well. This is an absolute goldmine for Netflix. While Netflix was growing, Blockbuster was struggling to survive. With online streaming services available, people were no longer interested in DVDs. Blockbuster was deeply trapped in debt and filed for bankruptcy in 2010. Netflix was able to accelerate subscription acquisition, adding nearly 40 million US streaming subscribers by the end of 2014. As a part of its growth, Netflix ramped up the number of licensing deals with major media companies. Netflix was popular among media companies especially because of one factor: the Netflix effect. You see, Netflix was streaming the older seasons of some popular TV shows such as Breaking Bad and Batman. So whenever the TV channels come up with new seasons of particular show, people used to binge watch the previous seasons on Netflix, and it created the required buzz for the new season and viewership soared. This is called as Netflix effect. So networks lined up to have licensing deals with Netflix. Even Warner Brothers, who once rejected Netflix's offer, are now ready to license their content. But what these media companies don't know is that Netflix has created a new watching habit among Americans: binging, where viewers watch multiple episodes of television program at once, and Netflix data showed that audience developed an emotional attachment with Netflix whenever they binged. Even this sound is associated with anticipation. All these discoveries were possible only because of the data, and it was a game changer. Netflix may be popular, but it still doesn't have its own original content. All the content is licensed, and for the media companies, Netflix was just a dumping yard for their old content. Slowly, media companies realized that there is a big money to be made in streaming business, and they were starting their own streaming services. In 2010, HBO started its own streaming service called HBO Go. Suddenly, Netflix's business partner became its competitor. Netflix realized that it needs to have its own content and it should be good. The content should be better than HBO. But it's not an easy job because HBO is considered as the gold standard of quality content. So Netflix began to invest in original programming. Its first exclusive series was House of Cards, directed by acclaimed director David Fincher. It was a huge show, costed $100 million, and Netflix planned to release all the episodes of House of Cards at once, something that was never done by any media company before. Critics were skeptical and they even said that it will be an utter failure. But critics were wrong. When House of Cards finally released in 2013, it became a huge success. Chief Content Officer of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, summarizes the company's approach. The goal is to become HBO faster than HBO can become us. Breaking media industry norms, Netflix made the entire first season of House of Cards available at once, a practice it would repeat with all of its original content in the future. By 2017, Netflix spent more money on scripted original content than any other streaming provider and most traditional major media companies. The company spent record $17 billion in 2021 alone. The next giant leap in Netflix's journey came in 2016. It was the Consumer Electronics Show at Las Vegas. Reed Hastings was delivering the keynote speech for the show. Everyone was excited to know what he has to say. And during the show, Hastings announced that Netflix is going global and will be available in 190 countries except China, North Korea and some other countries. With this move, Netflix had access to global market and there was no looking back. By 2019, 60% of the paid members were outside US. Netflix's executives attribute its growth in large part to corporate culture that promoted agility and innovation. You see, media is a creative industry and to be successful, company has to constantly reinnovate itself and had to come up with great content every time. Money Heist and Squid Game are super hits, but after 6 months, audience will ask, what's next? And Netflix have to give an answer in the form of new content. Netflix's culture played a main role. Company even made public 127-page presentation known as the Netflix Culture Desk, which explains the company's culture and why it mattered for success. Reed Hastings even wrote a book on it. The rise of Netflix came at the expense of established TV entertainment firms and cable networks. Streaming video induced millions of viewers to scrap their traditional TV packages, especially younger viewers. But the companies fought back by consolidating media properties through mergers and acquisitions, terminating their licensing contracts with Netflix and launching their own streaming services. By 2019, AT&T, Disney and Comcast had completed acquisitions which collectively valued at $215 billion. Meanwhile, Apple launched its own streaming service, Apple TV, and planning to invest billions of dollars. Just imagine, if not for Netflix, these many streaming services in market wouldn't have existed. They are competing in both global and as well as country level. Streaming services are everywhere. It is slowly killing the traditional TV. Netflix still leads the way with its original content. Netflix has done many groundbreaking media experiments which were not done before and luckily, they worked out very well. Today, all streaming services are competing to get your attention. But what they can't change is the time. There are only 24 hours in a day. So Reed Hastings has an interesting prediction. You see, whenever there is a favorite show going to be released, you stay up late night and watch all the episodes. Reed Hastings says, in this way, we are winning. So yes, sleep is our competitor. So that's the video on the rise of Netflix, guys. Hope you like it, and the next video will be on how Netflix conquered Indian market. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends. See you in the next one.